Imagine yourself in the heart of an ancient forest, where every trunk echoes with the tread of boots, the lament of trumpets, and the crackle of torches. Here, the story of a vast empire bends under the weight of a deadly betrayal. Today you will uncover the secrets behind the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, the episode that not only annihilated 3 Roman legions, but also reshaped the balance of power across Europe. Have you ever felt that uneasy realization that no power is truly invincible, that even the most disciplined armies can be deceived by those who swore loyalty? Rome, with its aura of invincibility, learned that harsh lesson in 9 AD when its arrogance met the perfect terrain for collapse. In this video, we will reveal, scene by scene, how Arminius, a Roman-trained ally, orchestrated the greatest ambush of antiquity. You'll learn how intimate knowledge of the enemy became the very weapon used against them, which mistakes by Varus sealed the legion's fate, and which strategic lessons still echo on modern battlefields. But before we dive into these tales and curiosities of ancient Rome, make sure you're subscribed to our channel and hit the bell. That way, you won't miss any of our videos full of secrets and surprises about the Roman Empire. Feel the chill of damp air and the weight of spears resting on your shoulders. Hear the distant drumbeat of feet slogging through mud. The forest awaits, and with it, the first step into a trap that would change history. Shall we follow Varus on his confident march? Rome and its plans to expand into Germania. Since Augustus became Rome's first emperor, the empire was driven by an almost obsessive urge to conquer new lands. Germania, a vast plain beyond the Rhine, offered both natural wealth, timber, furs, metals, and political prestige. Roman accounts painted the region as wild, home to proud, free tribes, precisely the kind of challenge that fueled Rome's spirit of conquest. The plan was comprehensive: build fortresses along the Rhine, open roads for supply lines, and settle veteran colonies to enforce Romanization. Towns like Colonia Agrippinensis, modern Cologne, rose as outposts, symbols of the civilization destined to shine over the German woods. To carry out this vision, Augustus appointed Publius Quinctilius Varus, a veteran of Eastern campaigns. With a stellar senatorial career, Varus received full civil and military authority in the province. 3 legions, about 15,000 men, and loyal Germanic auxiliary detachments were under his command. In Rome, senators applauded. An unbeatable force, they declared, comforted by Varus's optimistic reports. But beneath the veneer of roads, built and orders obeyed, deep resentment simmered. Tribes like the Cherusci and Sugambri saw their traditional chiefs stripped of power, bore heavy taxes, and had customs banned by Roman administrators. Every felled tree and extracted tribute was a bitter reminder of freedom being torn away. Tension crackled in the air, and Varus, secure in his prestige, failed to notice the fuse being lit. What if Rome's greatest ally was, in fact, the architect of its downfall? Let's meet Arminius, the man who wore the Roman uniform with the heart of a rebel. Varus's appointment and the illusion of control. When Publius Quinctilius Varus arrived in Germania, he was greeted almost as a liberator. Tribal chiefs offered rare gifts, furs, grain, amber jewelry, while delivering speeches of friendship. Confident, Varus saw this as proof that civilization and sound treaties would pacify the region. At his side, Arminius wore a loyal smile, a Roman auxiliary officer who knew every tactic and every potential weakness of the imperial army. Soon, the 3 legions erected fortified camps of timber and earth, linked by newly cut roads. Watchtowers rose at key points, and the clang of construction rang day and night, a rhythm of unstoppable dominion. Administrative measures, like encouraging marriages between legionaries and Germanic women, were celebrated as integration successes. Yet beneath this facade ran a silent resentment. Villages whose chiefs had lost authority, taxes crushing the harvest, prisoners paraded as warnings. Varus, used to command without surprises, received optimistic dispatches, enduring peace. The Senate in Rome proclaimed reducing guards and extra patrols. It was then that Arminius and his hidden allies seized the opening. The deadliest threat wore the Roman uniform. What if that cloak of friendship was merely the prelude to history's most perfect ambush? Let's see how Arminius set the trap. The rise of Arminius as a double agent. Arminius was no ordinary barbarian. Son of a Cherusi chief, he had been sent as a hostage to Rome in his youth, where he received a Roman education and served as an auxiliary officer. There he learned legion, tactics, discipline, and the vulnerabilities of Varus's military structure. Returning to Germania, he donned the Roman uniform, spoke official Latin, and won the governor's trust, becoming the perfect ally, until he became Rome's worst nightmare. In the command halls, Arminius dispelled any doubts Varus had. "There is no uprising beyond minor skirmishes," he declared with conviction. Relieved, Varus relaxed patrols and celebrated the advance of Romanization. Publicly, Arminius embodied successful integration. In secret, he gathered Cherusi, Marsi, and Tubanti chiefs in hidden forest clearings. There he promised the reconquest of ancestral lands, stoking resentment over high taxes, arbitrary arrests, and the erosion of tribal customs under Roman rule. His charisma rallied hundreds of warriors hungry for vengeance. Each pact forged swelled the hidden army, ready to strike at the appointed moment. Meanwhile, Varus strengthened roads and forts, unaware that his own confidant fueled the conspiracy. Network. Arminius moved in the shadows, master of a theater of lies destined to erupt into carnage. Do you see how intimate knowledge of your enemy, their maneuvers, blind trust, and weaknesses can become the deadliest weapon in an ambush? Get ready to watch the plan unfold. The deception. Arminius leads Varus into the ambush. In the summer of 9 AD, Arminius seized on rumors of a minor uprising near the Visa Valley. With a grave demeanor, he informed Varus that small tribes had rebelled and needed to be quelled before the unrest spread. Trusting the German general and his own experience, Varus assembled the 3 legions, about 15,000 soldiers, and marched in disciplined columns along the narrow trail through the Teutoburg Forest. By evening, the Romans made camp in muddy clearings, confident they would rejoin the main road at dawn. Arminius had guaranteed total safety. No extra patrols, only enough guards to maintain order. The columns stayed in rigid formation, lanterns lit and standards held high, a display of power before the ally. The soggy ground and towering trees seemed trivial against Varus's unwavering confidence, yet that very confidence was the heart of the trap. The dense, treacherous forest slowed every Roman step, stretching their units into a long, vulnerable convoy. With no scouts ahead or behind, the legionnaires were exposed. When an eerie silence fell, no one noticed the shadows shifting with hostile intent. At the moment the first war cry rang out, the march dissolved into chaos. Arrows slashed through the air, spears emerged amid twisted branches, and the forest, silent, accomplice, closed in like a deadly cage. What if I told you that in mere seconds, the world's greatest army became helpless prey to a plan as perfect as it was cruel? The forest crossing and the beginning of the trap. In the first hours, what should have been a routine march became a test of endurance. Fallen trunks blocked the path, mud clung to leather sandals, and fine rain made even the sturdiest spears slippery. The heavy shield, once a symbol of protection, turned into a burden with every step. Roman columns, stretched over hundreds of meters, lost cohesion. Cohorts became isolated, centurions lost sight of their men, and messengers floundered in the mire. Meanwhile, Arminius, riding beside Varus, pointed out faster shortcuts winding through the woods. At every turn, in clearings hidden by dense foliage, his secret army lay in wait. Germanic warriors crouched with bows drawn, spears leveled for the signal. The seemingly silent ground pulsed with the heartbeat of hundreds. Lying in ambush, when the scout sent ahead failed to return, a chill rippled through the legionnaires. Fear surfaced, but Varus's blind trust in his ally prevailed. He ordered them forward. The forest closed around them, shadows thickened, and the air grew heavy with foreboding. No one heard the snap of a twig, the signal for the storm of arrows. Have you ever wondered how this event shaped an empire's destiny? Hit like now and help us keep bringing you stories like this. Feel the moment the first shaft rips through the sky and the war cry explodes. The chaos is unstoppable. The betrayal revealed. The Germanic surprise attack. In an instant, the forest's damp hush shattered with the rattle of spears. Bows unleashed a hail of arrows, piercing shields and armor as though they were paper. The metallic clang merged with screams of pain, surprise, and frantic orders. Cohorts, once disciplined, fragmented in panic. They tried to form the famed testudo, but the narrow trail made any formation impossible. Centurions fell as they attempted to rally their troops. Without the standards to anchor morale, the army's spirit collapsed. Germanic hit-and-run tactics, strike, retreat, vanish, turned every tree into a fortress and every log into a lethal hideout. Amid mud and twisted branches, the enemy appeared like specters, wounding and vanishing before the Romans could aim again. Legionnaires, trained for open-field glory, found their tactics turned against them. The once allied forest had become a deadly labyrinth. The ground churned with blood and leaves. The air thickened with the smoke of shattered shields and snapped spears. Roman hierarchy, the bedrock of their strength, crumbled in an instant. In one final effort, survivors tried to regroup around Varus, but the noose tightened. Arminius's betrayal was complete. The ally had guided every step into carnage. Imagine fighting an enemy that vanishes as swiftly as it attacks. Now discover how the Romans desperately tried to fight back. The Romans' desperate struggle in hostile terrain. As the day wore on, legion cohesion dissolved into isolated pockets of resistance. Centurions, cut off from their standards, used branches and logs to erect makeshift barricades while shouting orders that were swallowed by the forest's damp echo. The relentless rain turned the ground into treacherous mire, making every movement an act of sheer will. Roman discipline, once their greatest pride, wavered. Some troops managed to form defensive circles, protecting flanks and backs. Others, with no choice, hurled pila at shadows they couldn't see. Each Germanic assault came with fierce battle cries that stoked panic, sending hearts racing. Exhausted and wounded, many Romans surrendered. Others fought on until their last breath. Varus, on horseback, attempted to rally a reserve cohort, but near-zero visibility and rugged terrain thwarted any coordinated maneuver. The forest, once territory to conquer, had become a living prison. Streams of mud mixed with pools of blood, and the green canopy seemed to weep over the fallen. When all hope seemed lost, one question remained. Was there any path to escape, or was Germania's victory already written in the mud? The collapse of the legions and the death of Varus. As dusk fell, reality became inescapable. Roughly 2/3 of the soldiers lay dead or wounded, many too weak to raise their shields. Supplies, bread, water, even medical gear had vanished. In the initial chaos, buried in mud, or looted during panicked flights. In the distance, Germanic torches lit clearings where makeshift barricades crumbled under relentless assault. Each flicker brought fresh screams. Romans captured, sometimes executed, sometimes enslaved on the spot. Varus, exhausted and fully aware of his legion's fate, gathered his few trusted officers. They plotted escape routes through foliage known only to locals, but every secondary trail was controlled by the enemy. With no hope of breaking free, the general chose death over dishonor. He raised his sword against himself, ending his command and avoiding the shame of capture. With Varus's fall, Roman command disintegrated completely. Survivors scattered into the darkness seeking refuge, though many were hunted through the cold night. When silence returned, only distant moans and the ghostly sway of abandoned standards remained. The legendary unity of Rome's legions lay, buried under leaves and broken timber. Now see how Rome absorbed this colossal shock and what drastic changes reshaped the empire after the Teutoburg disaster. Immediate consequences for Rome and the change of strategy. News of the massacre shattered Rome's marble and toga-clad world like thunder. 3 legions, nearly 20,000 veteran soldiers, had vanished. In the Senate, voices fell silent. In the palace, Augustus paced halls shouting, "Varus, give me back my legions!" Rome's aura of invincibility cracked, and expansionist ambition froze in collective fear. In response, military command enacted sweeping reforms. For the first time, terrain reconnaissance became a priority. Light scouting units were trained for forests and marshes, mastering stealth movement. Germanic auxiliary troops, once mistrusted, were reinforced and integrated into specialized squadrons, for only local knowledge could prevent another ambush. Veteran generals known for caution replaced bolder leaders. The remaining legions regrouped. Behind the Rhine, where fortifications were deepened with wider ditches and added watchtowers. That natural boundary ceased to be a launching point for invasion and became a fortified defensive wall. The Rhine was declared the empire's permanent northern frontier. In military circles, the Varus disaster became required study. Rigid tactics, once Rome's pride, were revised to include flexibility and terrain adaptation. Underestimating the enemy and ignoring geography became classic lessons in hubris. But what about the other side of the front? Discover how the Teutoburg victory united the Germanic tribes and forged Arminius's legend in forest and lore. The historical impact and the legend of Teutoburg. For the Germanic tribes, triumph in the Teutoburg Forest became the supreme symbol of unity's power. Arminius, formerly an auxiliary officer under Rome's banner, was exalted as a liberator. Among Cherusci, Sugambri, and Marsi, his name echoed as a cry for freedom. In tribal assemblies, young warriors raised their spears in his honor, vowing never again to submit. That day entered oral sagas, passed through generations and solidifying cultural cohesion against future invaders. In Rome, the disaster was dubbed the Varianischer Schaden, Varus's damage, by Latin writers. Tacitus, in his annals, recounted the horror of legions swallowed by mud and ambush, warning commanders never to underestimate enemy and terrain. Suetonius, in his biographies, recorded Augustus's anguished lament and the military reforms that followed. The plea, "Give me back my legions," became political legend, encapsulating the empire's humiliation. The episode reshaped ancient Europe's geopolitics. The Rhine was set as the definitive boundary, and Rome's dream of crossing, it was abandoned. Defensive strategies eclipsed conquest plans. Fortresses and garrisons became permanent priorities. Centuries later, historians still study Teutoburg as a classic case of military ambush and a warning against strategic arrogance. And you, who walked with us through that treacherous forest, have seen how human choices, alliances, betrayals, and courage rewrote an empire's destiny. If you enjoyed this journey through time and want more fascinating stories, subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with your friends. You'll help us keep bringing high-quality historical content. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video on ancient Rome and its grand empire.